my friend. Jonathan Doyle with you. Welcome to the Daily Message. So good to see you. Thank you so much for stopping by. It is greatly appreciated. Welcome to my humble little studio where all the magic happens. Housekeeping, please make sure you're subscribed. Hit that big subscribe button wherever you're seeing it. It makes a huge difference. You know, I lie awake at night crying at the thought that you haven't subscribed. So if you want to do your part for humanity and stop me from sobbing myself to sleep at night, hit that subscribe button so I can get you the daily videos. Of course, there is the podcast version under here. So I've done a longer podcast version each day as well. So grab that here. Today, and there's other links too, right? So you can book me to speak. You can book a coaching call with me. It's called a discovery call. It's really cool. 30-minute call. You can book it here. We jump on a Zoom call. We focus on whatever you need to focus on. It's a discovery call, discovering where you want to grow. Business, relationships, life, health, fitness, wherever you're stuck. Hit that link, book a call with me, and I'm coaching a lot of people these days, and it's a great chance to really help people move forward. So do that. I want to talk to you today about something called responsibility for state. Responsibility for state. I am convinced, deeply convinced. I've been studying this a lot lately. I've been going through some more training and study content, and deeply convinced of how our state, and by state I mean our physiology, our breathing patterns, our body movement, how our state profoundly affects our outcomes in life. It profoundly affects what we experience, how successful and happy we tend to feel on a regular basis. In the podcast, I talked about, when we get bad news, you'll often notice, or if we're in a low state, how our body collapses. So if you've got really bad news about something, or you're feeling really down or frustrated, or you're giving up on something, have you noticed how your body collapses? It's like this, right? You start to, or if it's really bad news, you're like, oh man, like you notice that natural human movement? You see it? Like it's just like we go, how often in life have we gone, oh, what am I going to do? And you see, as we move forward, we collapse the diaphragm as well, right? So our breathing pattern changes, our breathing gets less and shallower, we slump forward, and it's like, And the example in the podcast I give is, do the contrast, right? Imagine you have a favorite sporting team. For some of you, that's easy. Some of you don't. But you have this incredible favorite sporting team that you've followed all your life. You just love this team, and you followed them. They make a final, and there's 10 seconds to go, and your favorite player scores the winning points in the final. Like, do you find yourself sitting there going, oh, that was really good. I'm really glad they won that. That was excellent. Of course you don't. What do? You're like jumping around like this. You're punching the air. My kids joke about this a few years ago. Argentina beat the All Blacks in rugby. And I'm sorry to all my New Zealand friends. I'm not a fan of the darkness. I'm just not. So Argentina won, and I was jumping off the couch, and I'm like, wah! And screaming and yelling. Or years ago, there was a local cyclist from where I live called Matt Heyman who won the Paris-Roubaix, famous cycling race. And my kids were little, and I was like jumping on the couch, and I'm like, Matty! And I'm like so excited. And come back to that example of, when your team wins, right? What are you doing? You're high-fiving strangers. You're grabbing old ladies and hugging them. You're just like complete people that you wouldn't nod to if you passed them on the street. You're just like, wow! And so you see this relationship between what's going on mentally for us and how our bodies react to it. So here's the thought. What if you could reverse engineer it? What if you could use your body to create the state? So instead of waiting for the environment to dictate your state, what if you dictated to your environment through your state? So there's a lot to this, but I wanted to start to put on your radar. I wanted you to start paying attention, and I wanted you to start being diligent and switched on about your physiology, about your state, and really taking responsibility for it. I find it hard. I have found this shift difficult to make because it's so easy. We're so ingrained in our normal patterns, right? We're so used to just like, I was coaching this guy in Canada the other day, and he's talking about how things are going for him and things aren't going too well. And the body posture was so down, the breathing patterns, and then the language descriptors. And I'm like trying to instantly get them moving into a different state. And it's not easy because people go, oh, this is silly. I don't want to look silly. I don't want to do this. So I said on the podcast, I give you homework, right? I give you some practice. You don't want to know how I do it? If I want to get myself in a good state. Now, I'll tell you what I do, but I really got to get you to understand why it matters, because when you are in a good state, you do cool stuff. You take risks you wouldn't take. You make good decisions that you would normally hold off on. You make calls you wouldn't make. You try things you wouldn't try. So being in a good state is like really crucial. You know, I remember years ago, St. Ignatius of Loyola back in the 16th century pretty much wrote the greatest material ever on discernment, on how to discern what to do. One of his crucial points was that you never make a decision while experiencing what he called desolation. So you never make a big decision, important decision, when what? When your state's terrible. That was in the 16th century from one of the greatest spiritual masters in human history. He was going, whatever you do, don't make a decision when you're like this. When you're like, you don't do it then. You make a decision when you're in positive states, when your energy's up, when you're feeling confident that you can take on anything. So one of the things I do, I promised I'd tell you, but I don't think it's embarrassing. I think it's kind of cool. And my kids even like it, is there's an OG song by a cool 90s hip-hop band called House of Pain. You probably heard the song. It's called Jump Around. And what I do sometimes is I put my headphones on and I shut the door and I crank Jump Around and I just go nuts. You cannot help but dance and go crazy when that song comes on. And the minute you do it, now close the door, unless you've got a very accepting family, you start to move, you dance, you go crazy, and your physiology begins to shift. And the next thing you know, you're just like, I could do anything. I could do anything. I could bite the backs off car tires. So I'm becoming a convert to this belief that we must not let our states be accidental. They must be deliberate. I went and filled up the car this morning for Karen. She's driving interstate today. And I said, hey, because I'm such a great husband, I go do this for you. And if she's watching, Karen, you're welcome. I filled up the car and it takes a long time. It's got a big tank. And I remembered what I wanted to talk to you about today. And I stood a little bit taller. I stretched a little bit. And I breathed a little bit. And I just moved my hands a bit. And I'm just even standing there, I'm trying to keep that state moving forward. All right, so look, if this all seems hard and it seems artificial to you, that's fine. But then you have to be happy with the results you're getting. Because if you want different results, you have to do different things. That's the rule. All right, I'm going to keep this short. Everything else is below. Book me for a coaching call. Go and get a free copy of my book. Book me to speak. It's all under there, friends. God bless you, everybody. Please make sure you're subscribed. My name's Jonathan Doyle. This has been the Daily Message. You and I are going to talk again tomorrow.